Have you not listened to episode 10? 10, 10, 10. Download it. Listen to it. Here's a clip.
I can't get excited about him. I think he's kind of silly, goofy, which you need that kind of, maybe at the front of the card, and that's pretty much all that I would use for him. He's not main event material in my opinion, even though we got TR thinking he is. So what do you think, Lance? Your turn. Your turn.
My thing is the first thing was that they obviously it was pretty clear they used Gronk because they couldn't get Shaq. They wanted a Sports Center moment. They had there weren't any other guests that they brought in that were going to get that Sports Center moment, so they had to get Gronk, and I guess they used the connection of having Mojo knowing him to bring him in. And I mean, the guy wasn't an embarrassment to jump over the rail, and they did it on the pre-show, so it wasn't like they lost any more credibility by having him on there. But actually, in the Battle Royal itself, the two things that stood out for me were the Kalisto looking like a frickin' lawn dart. I mean, that guy looked like a mini in there with the rest of the guys. I don't know. He got lost. I don't know if anybody even else noticed him. And he got eliminated first, so I don't know what happened because Simon Gotch is traditionally always the first eliminee in anything that they do. And I don't know how that happened where Kalisto went out first. And the other thing was Sin Cara. I didn't even realize that was Sin Cara because he was dressed in New Jack from New Japan. So I thought that was bizarre too.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party.
Live from STS Studios on a Saturday morning. That's right. We wanted a few days to count in for October. So October the 31st is on a Tuesday, our regular release date. Instead of releasing it on a Tuesday, I want to release it, give it a few days to mature and give us some downloads there in October. A very special guest. We talk about all kinds of fun stuff. I just want to get a big shout out and a thank you to Bob McGee. We also got Gene Jackson out there. Both guys are letting me put stuff up on their podcast. Bob actually does it. Gene, why don't you do that for me? Jeez. Just want to remind everyone they can get me at Comic Book Mark BT. Guys, we have 2 brand new shirts. We have a Cool Kids Countdown shirt and a My Old Buddy shirt. You can go to tinyurl.com, STS Pod merch. If you're listening to this on 10/28, you still have a few days and you can actually get the shirt for only $14. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, Pod Paradise, Spreaker, and all the episodes are up there on stspod.club. A big shout out to Suplex City Limits, Creative Control, and my non-wrestling podcast buddies, Who's Right Podcast. All right, let's get to the episode.
The green room, my old buddy. That's right. Oh my God, it's Tom Robinson again. TR Shock or whatever the hell your name is today. Tom, I want to welcome you first and foremost. Let me say, you're one of the most popular guests that was on the podcast so far this year. Both your shows, and you was on there with Brian Thompson, and then we did the show with the unedited stuff. 22K. Of listeners sat and listened to you on those 2. So one of the top guys, 3rd most downloaded podcast. How the hell you been, brother?
I've been grieving today. I just, I feel like I lost a family member. I lost Benson, Robert Guillaume. Rest in peace. No, that's just an ad lib. I'm so fucking witty off the top of my head. I have a computer screen in front of me. I actually did like Benson, and I like Soap if you're that old, but I doubt your listeners are.
Well, I doubt it. There was some of them our age. Yeah, Soap was fantastic. And since this was going to air for the weekend, hell, they won't even know what we're talking about by the end. There was someone else that died by then. So what the fuck? There's a few things I called you to put you on here for, and hell, you know it, and I'm not going to kayfabe one of the main things we want to talk about 605. So, do we want to talk about 605 now, or we want to talk about some other things and we'll go back to 6? That's up to you, brother. I'm all about it, but we got to know. I know you were, and I don't care what the hell anyone fucking says. You were and this is not you saying it, it's me, the most popular co-host on 605 because I would listen to your shit. And no offense to anyone else that was co-host, because they're my friends also, but you were my favorite. So, do we want to talk about that now, or we want to talk about something else?
I want to talk about my new launch of my NBA podcast. I thank you for the kind words.
All right, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
let's do that. You're going to talk about it before we get off here. So here we go. Tom, you've been my friend forever. You're doing a business venture here. You have always supported. I can tell how many times you listen to my podcast. You actually sit and listen to it over and over. I know you do. But we got an NBA podcast. NBA is pretty fucking hot right now. And I don't even like the NBA. I don't follow the NBA. I watched your podcast with your co-host there. Damn, guys, y'all got, over 500 views on the first one. Total everything, there's no telling on the first. And this is just word of mouth. So talk to me all about the podcast. Tell people how they can listen to it. And it'll be coming up either on Monday or Wednesday this coming week. So this is the weekend. Wait, follow TR Shock. He's going to tell you all that shit and listen to it if you're an NBA fan.
Okay, it's called Wide Men Can't Jump. A play on words, if you will, to White Men Can't Jump. After my Bell's palsy, I went on an eating spree and a non-exercising spree. So last time I checked, I'm 290. I might even be closer to 3. And I'm the little guy. Nathan Bush out of West Virginia, who does some things in the wrestling business, has a band, but most of all is a diehard NBA fan like myself, is 6'4", 336 pounds. I call him the White Kamala. So we do, he had a little, kind of, I guess, for fun podcast last year and asked me to be on a couple times. I was busy and whatever and doing other shows and whatnot, and I wanted him to be my guy because he's knowledgeable and he's, quite frankly, we're two handsome, what's that stuff you have a fetish for? What do they call it for women? Big BBW?
That's BBW, yeah, uh-huh.
So we would be BBMs. We're two BBMs. And we talk about the NBA. We started a pilot show that was just out of laughcast.com. That's LAFFCAST.com, not laugh as in LAUGH. Last Monday, I can already smell money, or that's because I haven't got a shower. I don't know which of the two. But that's what depression does to you.
Hey,
but
man,
anyway.
Before you go, that's right. Both of us, what do I like to say? We have a touch of things that other people have. We both have a touch of depression. And guys, if you don't understand going to, without taking a shower for 3 days, then fuck you. That's what Tom says.
Yeah, and shaving's even harder. That sucks worse. It's easier.
Look at my new picture that I put out earlier when we were recording this. Hell, I ain't shaved in probably 3 months. So there you go.
Yeah, I never hid that I'm batshit crazy, but I'll just wrap up the basketball thing. I think this is going to come out after we had a pilot, but this is pretty much our debut. I'm taping it tomorrow. With Sean Grandy, an old friend of yours, old friend of mine, wrestling forum guy, Bellator guy, but on the subject, he's a Boston Celtics announcer, which is just such a perfect blend for me and Nate and our show, and we're just going to kill it. I'm going to mix wrestling with basketball, with everything else. You might hear Randy Savage talking to Joel Embiid about the World Series. You never know what's going to happen over there. We're going to do something different. And knock on wood, it'll be a success. And I thank you for letting me get that word out there.
I think it's awesome. I mean, there is so many people that are that are fans of wrestling, but also big, huge fans of like you with the NBA. Me, I'm more of a geek or a nerd, and could probably do wrestling and Star Wars or something stupid shit like that, or comic books and wrestling. Who knows? But I think it's a great idea. I mean, you got that crossover with the NBA, and not only that, I mean, do you want to put over your other? You got a Facebook site that that helps people with their betting. I guess you could say betting their the games and everything. We want to put over that Facebook site.
Sure, man. It's if you're on Facebook, it's TR Shock. I always forget to add that. TR Shock and Crazy Canuck page. I do videos. I started just goofing around on my own. The Canuck, I don't know if he wants his name revealed, so I'll leave it kayfabe, but he does NHL picks, and before he started overthinking it, he was like something like 20-1. I'm exaggerating, but he was destroying the NHL, which I know nothing about. So it's TR and Crazy Canuck. I try to make it funny. I try to make videos, and I try to make it fun for people that join, just to put up their picks, even if they're not betting. Because, of course, that's illegal outside the state of Nevada, so it's for amusement only.
Sure, just amusement only. Remember that, folks. You had a fun time this past weekend. It's one of the, which will be the weekend after this happens, after this is released. And I've seen a lot of it on Facebook, but it had to be an experience. You, as your shoot job, I guess we could say you're a driver. You've been driving for years, bus, you name it, you're a driver. And you actually got a good pay gig this weekend, picking up the honky-tonk man and taking care of him. So go over, you had to pick him up a certain time, and you told me this. So what was, all the superstars have to have something for themselves when you pick him up. So go picking up honky-tonk man, and what did you have to bring to him?
I don't know if I smartened you up to this. Maybe you have a keen sense. One of the, a lot of people like green M&Ms and all that old-time bullshit, but good old Wayne Ferris from Memphis, Tennessee, now by way of Phoenix, Arizona, the first cousin of Jerry the King Lawler, only requested one item, and that was a cold six-pack of Coors Light, which made me and him friends before we even met.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. I told you, I don't know if I told you, I met Wayne one time. This was when he was real hot. They were at the WWE event, and I was walked through backstage because I walked with someone else, and me and her stopped to talk to Jimmy Hart and Wayne Ferris, and all Wayne was saying was how much more they were drawing than Lawler was drawing. That's all he wanted to talk about. Which I thought was hilarious because he was a big, huge star, but it still meant something to him to come into the Coliseum and draw a lot of people.
Yeah, that was kind of, at least to me privately, that was that's been toned down over the years. We talked about when Lawler died on TV and how he was upset, and they did talk since then and whatnot. And he still has his beef. He said it pretty succinctly, like, to me, and he didn't say go on a podcast and say it, but I don't think he'd mind. He said it's just best sometimes you don't work with family, and I can get that. I can agree with that, especially in the world of wrestling, for Christ's sake. But there was a lot of stuff. We talked about Memphis, we talked about Puerto Rico, we talked about Calgary, we talked about how he somehow was in the other town, whether that's fortunate or unfortunate for every fight. He missed Bulldog and Rougeau. He missed Mike Sharp and Billy Jack Haynes. He missed Spivey and Adonis. Like, he wasn't in the other town all the time. Like, he was taping, like, a interview at one of them and was in another town at the other. So he had really no insight on fights except, like, I knew what he knew, basically.
That's funny. So if you were on his tour, then you weren't going to have any fights. That's what they probably thought. You picked him up on a Friday, and then what kind of con did he went to? Some con or something? I just seen pictures. So talk to me. Tell me what we did.
Got to put over to Professor Ouch. I hope this isn't a plug half hour. That's why I'm speaking fast.
No, go ahead. He deserves it for this. It looks like they did a real good job with this. Professor
Ouch is a guy I met, actually, through the 605, so, I got to give credit where credit is due. And he's a Philly guy. I probably met him a long time ago because we used to sit next to each other at the Civic Center without knowing each other. But Long story short is he's in business with Bobby Fulton's son, Dylan Hines, and he's a big punk rock guy. Like you said, your comic book, I'm NBA. His other thing is punk rock and tattoos and shit. So he went to the Trenton Punk Rock Festival and worked out a handsome deal for handsome Wayne Ferris and handsome T.R. Shock. And we both got us some handsome green, which is very rare for me doing anything involving wrestling, getting some green, but can't stress enough how well he paid me. I had to pick him up Friday, and I have Uber and Lyft gimmicks on my car, and Honky Tonk is just like waving me on, like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like after he called me, like, hey, TR, it's Wayne. I don't do a Honky impression yet. I'll have to look at the tape of, I did some Marky shit with him, but I said, I'll be around in 5 minutes. I pull up, and there he is, and I point at him and wave, and he just waves me on. And I go, no, it's TR, dude. He goes, oh, hell, I've seen the stickers and blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, I said, that's my hustle, too. I said, I do everything I can to make $1, and I'm your guy. Trust me, look at me. Most Uber drivers don't look like me. And he's like, yeah, you do look like one of the boys. Let's go. So it was all from there. We went to, I guess I should detail it instead of pausing like that. I have the podcast experience. So we hop on the highway. We go straight to the hotel. Ouch meets us. We have a wonderful dinner, wonderful conversation about his wife of 30 plus years, his daughter. He FaceTimed at one point. His son is a very good golfer, makes money out of the golf industry. He talked to his best friend in the business is Bushwhacker Luke. He says he talks twice a day to him. His second best friend is Tom Brandy, who actually called and is a mutual friend, probably yours too. Definitely mine. He called while we were driving, and so that immediately made us gel because we're both big Tom Brandy friends, fans, whatever you want to call it, a.k.a. Sal Sincere and Johnny Gunn.
Right, yeah.
Whatever the fuck he was. But Tom's good. Tom's good people. The floor is yours, Mr. Trammell.
Well, no, where did we go? We went, tell us about Chick Fight. Tell us we went to, did you set up at a con? Is that what we did the first time?
Keyword con. No, it's the punk rock festival, and god damn, I was never into that scene, but I might start being. Jesus H. Christ. I think on my Twitter, one of them I put this girl that had some tattoo girls are just turn-offs because they go too far, but she had the perfect, never mind. She was a very attractive woman who put over my podcast, and there was a lot of crazy, freaky people up there, which was not too far-fetched from pro wrestling. And I'll tell you, a surprise guest that came up out of nowhere was one Joel Goodhart, who you'll remember.
I saw that picture, and with Honky being at a punk festival, did we see a crossover of fans? I mean, did they know who the Honky Tonk Man was?
It seemed like everybody knew either who he was or that he was a somebody, because, the boys, they could be 80 years old and still have that head-turner deal. When you're in an airport, it's a somebody even if you don't. And I would hear whispers like, that's T.R. Shock. I mean, that's Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah.
When we were walking together. They were trying to figure out who I was, and I kept saying I was Quang, back in the day. And, we really bonded, man. I wish this was a 4-hour show. I'm just kidding.
No.
So I could get all the details of like things we discussed. It was just fantastic. It reminded me of the old days.
What about Chick Fight? What was your impression of the promotion of that and everything? Good crowd?
From what I understand, they increased a little from their normal. They have a nice little gig over there. Michael Tartaglia runs the show. Joe Zanoli. I'm only dropping these names because I think you know them, or they might be in the Cool Kids group or whatever.
Right.
Joe Zanoli, the legendary, I call him legend. He downplays his own self. John Finnegan, referee for ECW for all those classic matches. Mike Keener. Kathy Fitz from back in the day. They have a nice little crew of workers and volunteers to make it like a little family atmosphere. they're not going to do ROH and New Japan quality matches. They might get one here and there, you know what I mean? But they do an old school, nice little family show, and this time they brought in the girls. I was only there for half of it, and most of my attention was on Santana Garrett's body. But they drew a little bit, and from what I understand, it's going to be, I think it was the second one, and it's going to be a yearly thing, like forever.
Yeah, like the Super 8. Yeah, he does the Super 8 also. All right, let's take a real quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about 605. Go.
Hey man, is where I heard Tom Robinson was on shooting the Shiznit. I can't find the motherfucker, but tell that pussy that when I find him, it better be every Tuesday on shooting the Shiznit, motherfuckers. Fired up.
After the commercial, we talked about your podcast. We put over the Honky Tonk Man. Hell, we might have to have him on with you sometime and just talk to him about various things that he's doing. It's not going to hurt to get the word out on him. Sounds like a really good guy. Like I said, I had a great experience only meeting him one time, but first time impression, I've always liked him. And being a Memphis boy, I always support him. I loved his gimmick and told everyone that said, "Oh, he's just not a good worker" and all that horse shit, never did understand how fucking over he was in a gimmick and what a gimmick meant, And Honky Tonk Man was a hell of a gimmick there.
One wrap up comment from me.
Okay.
It's a little nugget of information that I thought was pretty cool. There was a million of them, and off air or maybe part 2 sometime I'll tell you about all this shit. But we got to talking about Vince, and he said it was so hard for him to do his finish, like especially with job guys, because Vince is like, I suck at Vince. A lot of guys do Vince, but I never worked for him. So, get that shake the hips, and like he really was Vince about the basic.
Yeah, hold on. You was turning me on there just keep saying it.
Brian Travel suck. Never mind. Anyway, yeah. So Vince would really, get with him, and his finish was shake, rattle, and roll, which is basically a neck breaker or whatever,
Right.
So everybody's trained to take the bumps of certain moves, and he would, get a job guy that's just nervous and whatever, and sometimes he'd have to do 2 matches because of Vince, like wanting to get that shake, rattle, and then roll. It's kind of like Jake if Jake were put in a position to do a shake, rattle, and DDT. So I found that interesting. It's something I never heard along the years of how they say nuance and meticulous and stuff like that about McMahon, and I'd say it's almost what do you call that, OCD, because he would get chewed out if he just did a regular like neck breaker.
Right. But it's also it shows you his being so detailed, all about what you're doing, not the moves you're doing, but what you're doing in between the moves. And a lot of people don't get that. It took me years to really get it, that the things that they're doing before they do the moves are just as important. I mean, even, the putting your hand up, clapping your hands or whatever, if you're a part of a tag team, what you're doing as the tag team partner, especially a babyface on the outside, there's just little things that mean so much, and that I could see Vince being pissy about that because it did mean something. Me and you didn't know it. I mean, in our opinion, in our eyes, Honky Tonk Man never screwed up his finish because we never seen him do it, so it never made it to television. All right,
me and you were that job guy. We'd be taking a bump on the shake.
Well, yeah, I mean, hell, I did. I took a bump one time, and it was in 3 stages. It's like I grabbed the top rope, and then I grabbed the middle rope, and then I finally bumped, I mean, what the hell? I mean, Chris Champion threw me over the top rope one time, and instead of the top rope, I went through the middle and the top. I was supposed to go over the top because it's top rope battle royal. I went through the top and the middle, and you can see it on the videotape. I land completely on my head. No, I didn't grab the ring apron. I didn't do nothing. I mean, the head, I had this big fucking black eye. One of the only black eyes I've ever had, but, yeah, I wasn't.
Black guys. That was the only black guy you ever had?
Well, yeah, that was it. I mean, no, Chris Champion's white, but God, he's got this big, well, we'll talk about that on another show. But, well known to be, carry a snake around, just put it that way. So Chris Champion, who used to be part of the New Breed, let's talk about the New Breed. Were they
2002, baby!
Were they one of your favorite tag teams or what? Because I fucking like the New Breed.
Oh, my God, they were fucking awesome. They were sort of what they called themselves. Like, some of their moves that are like transition moves today were mind-blowing. I couldn't wait to see them against the Midnight Express, but apparently it was short-lived. I met Sean Royal. He was kind of unless he was working me, he was a really strange dude. But,
Chris
I love them
too,
dudes, man.
He got caught, Chris got caught in a turtle suit. Actually, he was on one of the very few times I wrestled. He was on my first show I wrestled dressed up like a turtle. Later on that month, got arrested for apparently molesting somebody underage in the turtle suit. So I said allegedly because I don't know if he was actually convicted of that, but that's got to be sad if you're going to try to pick up women in a turtle suit. But
especially if you go to jail in the gimmick and everything. Jesus.
All right, so we got not plenty of time. We got about 9 or 8 minutes. So let's spend the last 9 or 8 minutes. Let's talk about last time we were on here. I had you on here. Me and you talked about 605, how much I enjoyed you on 605, and so forth and so on. I noticed something that was happening, and didn't really reach out to you, but then when I did, you was like, boom, yeah, I see it too. It wasn't like I poked a bear and said, hey, look what's going on. I just asked what was going on, and then, and a few days later, boom, you're not with them anymore. But they did a tribute for Bobby the Brain. They did a tribute for Lance. And you being, and I'm not bullshitting you, the most, I won't say famous, but popular co-host of the bunch there, you weren't part of those two shows. So what the fuck gives with that?
Hey, did I mention my NBA show? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, you asked the question. I won't bury 605. I love that.
I'm not here
place.
to bury. I think.
No. I'm just saying from my end. I had great chemistry with Brian on air. He kind of rejuvenated me, so I'll eternally be grateful. I just, since you brought up the question, I guess it's not bad to answer questions. I wasn't happy about not being on the Brain show because I thought it would be like we had a Star Wars thing over there where it would be just kind of quote unquote us, the regulars, the other co-hosts and myself and whatnot. And it turned into something else. And if you're bringing in Jim Cornette and Jimmy Hart and fucking superstars, cool. But that wasn't the case. That was, I think, the super roundtable of legendary managers was Jim Cornette, deservedly so, and Travis Scott Bowden. I don't know if you could hear that. I was embarrassed almost to say that would be part of a roundtable for arguably the greatest manager of all time. Jim Cornette, absolutely. The other person, mind-boggling. But that one I can't really bitch about because he did say he reached out, and I can't deny that he did because my landline is what I use for shows, and half the time I don't even check it. But definitely was interested in the Lance show because Goodhart and myself and Lance rode Salisbury, Maryland back and forth 2.5 hours each way. I would run little errands when Lance would be up here for historians know I'm not a historian, but the Halloween Havocs, whatever reason he would be up here for WCW, I was his guy. And I love the guy as I know you did, as I know they do. And I know everybody who grew up on Memphis did. And nobody can last forever, and 91's a good run, but it's still, it's a day we hope would never come.
we lost a lot of people in the last couple of years, and I said it on the little tribute show that it took me almost 3 days to even talk about it. I hate to admit this, maybe it just sounds cheesy, but I missed a day of work because of it. I just could not do it. It just, and it goes back to I lost a very good friend. I lost within the last year and a half. I lost the people that I considered my other mother and dad, and so we just to see your childhood just kind of disappears slowly, and it kind of gives you that sense that well, we're going to die too. Unfortunately, me and you are.
Yeah.
Well,
speak for yourself.
There
you go.
But that's what Lance meant to me. He was my childhood. I know you're not a fan of Travis or Scott, but he did mention on the show that we talked about that it was almost like a grandfather, and a grandfather to a lot of us, and no one could ever say a bad thing about Lance Russell. So.
Yeah, that's true. He was the best, and so I wanted to say my 2 cents, and this time I was ready, and I reached out, and the response, I'm digging myself a hole. I guess there's going to be heat eventually. I can't fucking shut up, but. I reached out to be part of it, and I was the immediate response was the show's pretty packed. Like, I'll try to squeeze you in type of deal. And it just it all hit me at once. Like, wow, man, I'm a little taken for granted here. I'm not fucking anything. I'm not trying to put myself over, and people, the naysayers have compared it to Jackie the Joke Man with Howard Stern. Of course, he's Howard Stern of that show, and I was glad to be a part of it, and I was a very small part of it when you consider editing and hours and so forth. But, shit doesn't lie. The feedback and the inboxes, I've got thousands. And, when I got that Bell's palsy, I had something like, I stopped counting at about 5,500 to 5,800 get wells and hope, pulling for you and all this other shit. And it's like, granted, it came from that show, and I'll never lie about that, but, the proof's in the pudding. I had a following, and but now I'm straying from my genuineness of wanting to be there for Lance, and I'm kind of blurring the line. I wanted to say something, and I was kind of not in the plans, I guess. And then he came back with "Are you sure?" to put it on me, I guess. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if the show's packed, it's got to be Jerry Lawler opening. It's got to be Dave Brown. It's got to be Jimmy Hart. It's got to be Jimmy Valiant. It's got to be Austin Idol, Jim Cornette, which I knew he would have. It's got to be packed like that. People that knew, loved, whatever, Lance Russell, and I would be a jackass to try to get on that show. But when I listened to it, it was 50% people like that. Cornette was there, Idol was there, Kevin Sullivan was there, but a lot of my friends were there, so I don't see why I was bumped as a 2-year almost co-host and popular figure. And I took it personal. Maybe I should have directly said, "What the fuck, dude? You're an asshole," and maybe he would have came back with "My bad," or "Fuck you, you're an asshole." But I didn't, and a lot of other things, exclusivity I didn't like.
We had, the thing about it is we just, and I discussed this privately with you, and we had stopped talking. Not stopped talking completely, but we stopped talking about 605 Brian Last, and that was just a rule that me and you thought it would be best if we didn't do that. Kind of weird that I explained this on another show, and I'm going to spend a bunch of time explaining the weirdness that I felt like. We always scratched each other's back in the old days when it come to fandom, and that's what it is. The podcast thing has went to some people's heads, and to me, I'm excited about helping anyone. I'm also excited about anyone that listens to our podcast. We're on close to with social media and with all the downloads. When the year is up, we have touched. Yes, touched. I said. close to 1 million people in the first year. And that's not bullshit. That's not fluffing my numbers. That's just telling the truth. So that's exciting for me, and it doesn't go to my head. I'm still humble about it.
There's 1 million dumb motherfuckers around.
There's a Mark born every day. No, I didn't say that. But that was part of it that we didn't get, because I wanted to bring you on 2 or 3 different times and let you know. We was going to spend time talking about 605 on my podcast, which we're doing now. But that kind of strained us. I know I'm going way off, but that kind of strained our relationship and strained a lot of your other relationships. But we also, you did your best to try to get, you tried to stay with 605, try to get them to produce. Were they going to do the basketball show at first, or did you just not get any, help with that or anything?
Well, I had mentioned it a long time ago, long meaning several months, not years or anything. And honestly, it was my first choice because it's a built-in audience, and I think the guy's great. He's fucking awesome editor, awesome producer, awesome interviewer, all that stuff. So it'd be a natural fit, in my opinion, to be with that network. But I couldn't get a response about it, and I know he loves the Mets, and if the roles were reversed and he was talking to me about a Mets podcast, I'd probably be like, fuck this. But, and I understand it, and you said you like Star Wars and whatever, and, we all like different things, but there's a lot of 605ers that like the NBA, so I think it was a license.
Wait, I just had the greatest idea for a podcast.
Okay.
You said you got a lot of 605ers, NBA. I mean, if we could just do a podcast on jacking off. I mean, that's
well, that's
probably,
something everybody does, yeah.
Everybody likes, so we'll do jacking off with some characters in NBA and wrestling. No, just kidding. Oh, by the way, always, guys, this is R-rated, so if you're a child and listen to this, so cut it off and tell your parents. So I want to ask you one last question. We're going to let you go. We may bring you back.
We may.
I want to tease something. There's a couple people I want to bring on. I'm even trying. I'm not even going to say anything else. So here we go. Here's the question I want you to answer for the people that are listening to this that are going to but ask you, Tom, why did you leave 605? We kind of bounced around the excuses and why you decided to. But that's the main, and you still, I could say exactly what I want to say about 605, and you can too, and you're saying the truth. I've not really ever said anything bad about Brian Last. Really nothing bad about 605, except that I listen to mostly your stuff. But the main thing is we got friends there that love 605. We have no problem with them listening to another podcast. That does not bother us at all. Support them. Great, whatever you want to do. But if I came up to you and said, or if I inboxed you, no bullshit, don't kayfabe me. If I said, okay, why did you leave 605?
Well, a lot of the reasons I already went through, but it's hard to directly say this just from my own personality. I'm not going to go into any details because there's a lot of facts, a lot of things that could make me look good, but there's 3 sides to every story. You know what I mean?
Sure, I understand.
But let's just say I believed. I won't even say I was led to believe, but I'll just say I believe, so I'll take all the heat on my end.
Okay.
That there would be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow if I didn't talk to a Brian Trammell on air or a Feeney on air. Hell, Feeney asked me to do something for Conan and, Bowen and everybody else. A lot of people asked me. Stone Cold didn't ask me, so I'm not a big star or nothing, but... in our little world, I stayed loyal, and a lot of people that we are close to, mutual friends of ours. And I'll be honest, I was a little angry on my end that that people weren't supporting what I was doing from, our other Facebook group and all that stuff. So I probably would have left there anyway, and that has nothing to do with 605. But as I beat around the bush, it was about never getting a dime and then seeing a bunch of shows developed where I'm sure that there's going to be a monetary compensation to people I believe that are less talented than me, and I don't mean Jeff Bowden and I don't mean Ron Fuller. I wish those two guys, and especially Tony Basilio is a sweetheart, and et cetera. I wish those two guys nothing but the best, and I wish Brian the best, quite frankly. But I just don't want to do all that for free. But,
hey, we get it. So I'll PayPal you here in just a minute, and we went over our time, so you'll have to tell me how much I owe you. First, Tom, what I want you to do is the last shit we're going to talk about. Number one, tell us how we can get in touch with you and follow you. Number two, plug that Wide Men Can't Jump one more time, and then we'll take it out for this episode.
All right, www.laffcast.com will be the distributor, at least temporarily until we iron out all the kinks. It is every Wednesday right now at 9 p.m. Eastern. My co-host is Nathan Bush, as I said, a giant of a man. I'm at TR Shock on Twitter. I'm Thomas H. Robinson III on Facebook. I'm on Instagram under Mary Tom Leo. Don't ask me how the fuck that happened, but that's my email. I'm on that TR and Crazy Canuck Facebook. 605pod.com. I'm not going to not plug them because they got, good stuff except for a couple things, but and that's about it. Is that all I have to plug?
All right. Tom, thank you for joining us. Thanks everyone for listening. Remember, you're listening to the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be here, same bad time. Well, maybe a different bad time, but the same bad channel.